I'm not going to justify $22 million going away in 1998, but I know this, that they need a lot more than $22 million. That in 2002 and 2003, the Army Corps of Engineers, which is not Democratic, it's not Republican, it is a federal agency, said that they needed $200 million for levee maintenance. And at that time, Bush gave $6. Now, Congress did increase it to about the $20 million level. But here at a time when we're spending $200 billion in Iraq, it seems to me that we need a little bit more money for levee maintenance. Now, I'm not justifying anything the local officials have done. I'm not here to defend Roy Nagin or anybody else. But I can tell you this has not been a priority for the Bush administration. And I have a much broader issue than just the levees. I actually want to respond a little bit, if I could, to what Mark had said and also Sherman Parker to some extent. Mark, I have a lot of respect for your business. You have brought yourself up from your bootstraps. There's no question about that. I have a lot of respect for that. I really do. But it seems to me that to make it in America, you need education. That what all these programs that Hillary Shelton, and he knows them better than anybody here. He knows every detail. What they've all cut, they all had to do with education. And it seems to me that to have equal opportunity, not equal success, not waiting around for government handouts, but an equal chance to succeed, you got to have basic education, and that's what Bush is cutting. He's cutting student loans. He's cutting Pell Grants. Now, Sherman Parker, you're absolutely right. A lot of this is done at the state level. I have criticisms of a lot of Republicans at the state level. I can't speak for Missouri for cutting programs. But it seems to me that I would hope we could all agree, everyone on this panel, that education is vital. And when you look at Bush's budget, what's he doing? He's cutting inheritance taxes. He's cutting people that have hundreds of millions of dollars that don't need hundreds of millions of dollars, so that, and denying some poor kid a chance at an education. And it seems to me that when Barbara Bush says, oh, they're underprivileged, they don't need it anyway, what she's really saying is, you know, you should have done like my son did, inherit a lot of money. Well, you know, descendants of slaves don't always have that opportunity. The drug war is way overdone. And I think a lot of the killings that are going on in gang warfare in African-American poor communities are over the drug trade. Well, my view is there should be some form of reparations, and I'll tell you what I would personally support. Here's what I would support. You may not like what I say once I say it, but let me say. First of all, Congress needs to give an apology. I know it's merely symbolic, and some will say it means nothing. I don't think so. It seems to me that we gave an apology when we wrongly committed thousands of Japanese Americans in camps during World War II. It's about time this country apologized for the evil wrongs of slavery. And you may not think that's much, but I think symbols do matter. And it's about time we did that. That's easy. That costs no money. It should have been done decades ago. Number two, I firmly support, and it's finally happening, but I've been supporting this for a long time, a museum on the Mall dedicated to the African-American experience, and definitely talking about the horrors of slavery. That seems to be finally coming. I'm glad to see it. The third thing, the difficult thing, monetary thing, here's what I would do if I were elected. I think that the heart of trying to even up, and we can never even up the score, but to get in the direction of evening up between descendants of slaves and those of us who have immigrant families that came here. And by the way, this to me is not an African-American question so much as a descendants of slaves question. Colin Powell's family were immigrants. I don't think they should get these. But I think that if you can show you were a descendant of slaves, to provide money towards education, not money you put in your pocket, but in order to allow descendants of slaves to have an easier chance to get scholarships, to me that would be fair reparations, and I would support it. All the programs that have been cut. To me, the question is not what has been cut, but what are we spending all this money on? And I think we all know the answer to that. We're spending the war. We're spending it on an unnecessary war against a country that never attacked us. It's costing hundreds of billions of dollars.
1.7 trillion, 200 billion. That's a drop in the budget.
It's 1 trillion more under George Bush, right? So that's 200 billion right there. Okay? You've got all the money that we're trying to spend on the military, trying to get people to join the army to fight in a war that no one wants to fight for. And you've got a lot in the budget that's being used for tax cuts. right? I mean, you want to know why we have a huge deficit. You have all these tax cuts to the super rich. You have ending the inheritance tax. That costs money. And you've got a lot of money going to Halliburton, and a lot of money going to oil companies, and a lot of money going to pharmaceutical companies. The Medicare bill alone, that's $400 billion. That's a hefty chunk going to pharmaceutical companies. They were paid before the seniors ever had a chance to join the system. So the pharmaceutical companies are richer. The energy bill, that's a lot of money. And let's not forget pork. Let's not talk, I mean, there's the bridge to Alaska that goes nowhere that Ted Stevens got in there. It all adds up. Yes, we are spending wildly out of control. We're in massive debt, but we're not going to the people who need it. We're going to the people who support the president. WIT was one of the best run government programs by any objective standard, and that's simply a fact. Secondly, the point about the right to vote, there is no more right important in America than the right to vote. And there's nothing scarier going on than the Diebold and Sequoia voting machines owned by brothers that run 80% of the voting machines in this country and support the Republicans. We got to have a fair voting system, and you know, we may never know who really won the 2004 elections because we don't have voting machines with paper trails. So your point about voting is absolutely right, and I would hope that Republicans can join Democrats in saying, we just want to have fair elections. You know, all we're asking for is fair elections, machines with voting machines. I do want to say, though, because I invited Sherman Parker and Mark Head here, they've taken a lot of abuse tonight. I just want to say personally, I respect the fact that you're willing to come here and face the people. There were other people I invited that weren't willing to do that, and so I just got to give kudos to both of you gentlemen for at least being willing to do that. Believes the New Deal was unconstitutional. In her view, Social Security is unconstitutional. Medicare is unconstitutional. Medicaid is unconstitutional. She wants to roll back the Constitution 75 years. She said, in fact, that we can't have child labor laws. If you want to work a 9-year-old to death in a factory, that is your right. I don't care that the woman is black. She's dead wrong. And that's why I oppose Janice Rogers Brown. Clarence Thomas, oh, don't get me started on Clarence Thomas. We will be here all night. I oppose them for their rulings, definitely not for the color of their skin. When Thurgood Marshall, my hero, died, and they replaced him with, I don't want to say the word I was thinking of, with Clarence Thomas, it's not a nice word. To me, that was a shame, a blot on American history.
Let me just say